I've been wanting to review this for a very long time, and I'm pretty excited about reviewing it. I just been holding off because I was waiting for season two, the English dub, to finish airing. And I've implemented a new rule that I'm not giving a positive review to an anime series or recommending it until I finish at least the first season. Like if it's 5 seasons long, I think I can recommend it or not recommend it after seeing the first season, so long as I'm clear I haven't seen the others. For negative or neutral reviews, I don't think I have to see the whole first season. If it's so bad I can't make it more than 4 episodes in, that's that. But the issue I've had is I've recommended some series in the past. I had a couple of them in my top 10 anime series that I hadn't finished. I had just gotten bored with them and kind of gotten distracted and never finished them, but I had good memories of them. Karakano kind of becomes a disaster after the part I stopped watching it. I went back and tried to watch it, and the show just kind of goes off its rails and collapses in on itself. Kimi no Todoke kind of moves away from the main characters towards the side characters that I don't particularly like. And I think there was another couple of examples. But yeah, so I'm only giving good reviews to things that I've seen. And if you can guess from my beginning ramble, this is getting a good review. I'm just going to kind of say it. This gets a 10 out of 10 for me. This might be the best romantic comedy drama anime I've ever seen, kind of coming of age slice of life. This is really, really good. I very strongly recommend it. We'll get into the show a bit more, but if you like high school anime or romantic comedy or drama or stuff like that, I think this is about as good as it gets. I think it kind of takes that genre and brings it to the highest level you could reasonably expect it to get. The writing's really good, the characters are really good. Just it ticks off a lot of boxes for me of things that irritate me about other shows that this show doesn't have, or things this show does that other shows don't. So maybe let's just kind of go into them and then we'll get into the show itself, its themes, and that kind of thing. So the first thing I like about this is there's six main characters. I mean, there's Sutsui and Iroha, who are the main couple, and then there's two other couples. And they're all introduced pretty early on in the first couple of episodes, and it just focuses on them. Sutsui's brother gets some screen time too, and he's awesome. But by and large, you just have the six major characters. Everyone else is kind of peripheral, which is really, really nice. An issue I have with a lot of shows, not just like romantic dramas, but like just, I don't know, a lot of isekai and stuff, is they just introduce so many characters and side characters, and none of them get any development or screen time or have subplots that revolve around them, and they just disappear for prolonged periods of time and come back. You don't have that issue here. Everybody has character arcs and subplots going to write the end of the show, which is something I really like. The other thing is there's not really a love triangle or a love polygon or harem or any of that. There's another girl who has feelings for Sutsui, which he doesn't return. And letting her down is a big character moment for both of them. By and large, though, Iroha and him have a lot of relationship problems. They organically come from both of their personality flaws. In Sutsui's case, his overwhelming lack of self confidence in his belief that Iroha is going to lead him. In Iroha's case, it's because she's not the best at showing her feelings, and she's a very enigmatic person who's also very good at being sarcastic and doing things in a complete deadpan. So there's a lot of drama there, but with a couple possible exceptions, I didn't feel it was ever really forced or annoying or anything like that. Most of it tended to come naturally from the characters' personalities, which is something I like. So there's just a lot of good stuff about it structurally. Now let's get into talking about the show and the character. So, what is the premise of the show? So, we have our main character, Hikari Sutsui, although Iroha calls him Sutsun. So, he's your somewhat typical anime protagonist in this. He's a nerd, he's an otaku, he's kind of a loser. Pretty much everybody hates him, except for Ito, who's an even bigger spurg than him because he wears cat ears everywhere in public. But Sutsui just kind of hates people. He's very, like I said, uh introverted, very cynical. Um, he's a bit of an incel. I don't like using that term, but it's probably the best way to describe him. That sort of thing. Yeah, Sutsui's kind of a massive spurg. There's a lot of autism. Of the main cast, I'd say like half of them have varying degrees of the tism. And Sutsui actually kind of indirectly refers to this, talking about how he can't read social cues and stuff like that. And we get this moment where he's talking about 2.5D women, but I kind of digress. So I think the thing that's the most likable at Sutsui is he's just a really stand up guy. Even although at the beginning he's kind of depressive and introverted and a little bit rude, deep down he's a very hard worker. He's a very kind individual. He's a very loyal friend. He's very concerned for the people around him. And Iroha comes to love him despite him arguably being below her in the social standing because he just has these really solid traits that make him a really good boyfriend and would make him a really good husband and father. And that's something I really appreciate. I like that the main character isn't a Chad, but that he is kind of special in his own way. And that there is a logical reason why the main girl likes him. From her background, we get the impression that she probably has had a lot of relationships with Chads. Actually, that's explicitly stated in one of the flashbacks. And he was kind of the first person she ever met who was like a legitimately nice guy, who actually cared about her happiness, who wasn't trying to just cop a feel or pump her and dump her. And I like that because I think it's important to have heroes and role models who aren't like these untouchable heroic figures who have like superpowers and stuff like that. I mean, I do like the overpowered protagonist trope, but if you can forgive the autistic digression, it's something I like whenever they canonize someone who is someone who was holy, but in kind of a real, kind of a more reasonable way to the average person. Because I think it makes sainthood and the call to be holy, a lot more kind of attainable to the average person. I think when you look at people who get eaten by lions or die in a concentration camp or something like that, I think that's a very distant, difficult thing for somebody to comprehend. So I think it's important to provide examples of that. And in Sutsui's case, he's just a really stand-up guy, and I think it's something that a lot of people can really relate to, and something they could strive for is to make kind of similar improvements to their life that he does. Maybe one of the best examples is Iroha mentions at one point that she likes men who can make desserts and can like cook and bake. So Sutsui takes up the hobby of baking largely to impress her. And he winds up enjoying it, so he makes them baked goods throughout the series, which I thought was really cute. And then this brings us to Iroha, who I like a lot because she's very enigmatic. It's very hard to kind of tell what she's thinking. The English voice actress does a really good job of just kind of giving her a fairly flat, somewhat ambiguous voice. I think that's very much in terms of her character. So the show starts off when Sutsui and her are both late for class and they have to clean the pool together. Sutsui really hates her because she's a beautiful girl who um, has a reputation of having slept with half the guys in the school. And he kind of views her as the embodiment of like normie girls and everything that he hates. So they clean the pool together, and then she asks him if he'd go out with her. And he turns her down, thinking that it's like some sort of a joke. But later he kind of reconciles with her and they start going out together. And it turns out very soon that the rumors about Aroha are kind of completely fake. She's had a lot of bad relationships in the past. It's a topic actually pretty debated in the fandom as to whether Aroha is a virgin or not. A lot of people seem to think she slept with half the guys in the school. However, in one of the early episodes, to try to prove to Sutsui that she's serious about the relationship, he takes her to a love hotel. No, she takes him to a love hotel and is like, "I'll give you my virginity if it proves that I'm serious about this." So, I mean, she could have lied about that as well, but I think she was being honest about that. Iroha's a very kind of inscrutable person, so it's kind of hard to tell. So, yeah, Iroha is she's a kind girl. She's a very strong person. She's just very kind of emotionally detached, or at least gives that impression of being kind of haughty or prideful. She's not really like that. I'm not going to go into spoilers, but there's very good reasons why she tends to keep people somewhat distant and why she's very adamant about a relationship with Sutsui but feels very conflicted about it at the same time. It's framed at the beginning that she's leaving in 6 months and this is just kind of a fling for her, but there's a lot more to that. So don't read that into as like she's a thought who's just using him as a distraction for a short period of time. There's a lot more to it. So yeah, they get into a relationship basically in the first episode. They start going out together. Sutsui's trying to deal with having a GF. Um, he's not really sure how to act around her. He just starts baking for her. She gets angry at him periodically. He normally though is just like, look, I can't understand social cues. You're gonna have to just tell me what I did wrong and stuff like that. He tries to break up with her a number of times because of his low self esteem. But like I said, Iroha, for her part, she's found her man. She's found a guy who's dependable, who's reliable, who doesn't treat her like an object, who actually legitimately likes her for who she is and not just because of her beauty, which is something I really like. This is a very wholesome show. As you can tell, I really like this show a lot. And then we're introduced to our other characters. Ito, who's Hikari, or I guess Utsui's best friend, who I find a little obnoxious. I think other people don't, but I'm just going to skip over him. Then we have probably my favorite character, Ishino. So Ishino is another girl in their class. She initially just doesn't want to be involved with Tsutsui because he's a nerd, and Iroha has really bad uh, reputation. She's kind of a wannabe Stacy because she's like really tall and wants to be popular and all that kind of thing. She has a very bad history of relationships with men. She's kind of that stereotype who really wants a BF, who really wants to be in a relationship, who really like that's just kind of the way that she wants to live her life. But she's constantly falling in with like bad guys who take advantage of her, who take his money, take her money, and she's just awesome. So her job is basically she's the tard wrangler of the group. It's her job to go in whenever Sutsui or Ito is being a spurg or Roha is like not explaining things to Sutsui and to just yell at them and like call them losers and to give them tough love. She just has a really good sense of humor. And I think they do her because I think that kind of character can very easily just come across as being very caustic and bitchy and unlikable. I think they do a really good job of making her like a genuinely good person, but someone who is kind of tough. It's kind of needed when you're dealing with this many spurgs to have someone who's just there to like kick them in the ass and get them going. But yeah, she has a very much of personality like that. Um, there's Mitsuya, who I kind of most people hate. Uh, he has a crush on Iroha, and he can't accept that she's going out with Sutsui. So he comes up with this scheme to frame Sutsui for being a pedo. It turns out though that his younger sister, who he used to frame him for being a pedo, is actually the girlfriend of Sutsui's younger brother. Sutsui's younger brother looks exactly like him, but he has a much I guess, kind of more masculine, strong personality, and he's a lot more kind of outgoing. And him and Mitsuya's younger sister have become boyfriend girlfriend in like elementary school, and they pretty much are like engaged, despite being so young. And they stick together for the entirety of the series, and they're still together come college, which I think is very sweet. It's cute to see kind of the young love and to see it kind of last. He's a very mature young man, but eventually Mitsuya has to apologize and clear Setsui's day. But we have an episode or two where he tries to break up with Aroha, so she's not dating a pedo. Then we have Ayato, who's also kind of a stereotype. I can't think of too many other examples, but she's the like nerdy, kind of voluptuous girl who's socially awkward, and would be really attractive if she put more effort into her appearance. And she's the only member, she's one of the members of the garden club. And basically everyone bullies her and takes advantage of her. And Tsutsui like the first person to ever really be nice to her and talk to her. So she falls in love with him, although Ito's in love with her. It doesn't really become a love triangle or anything because Tsutsui isn't interested in her. Um, he might have been if he wasn't in a relationship with Aroha, but he's extremely devoted to his GF, so he's just not really going down that road. But you have a lot of good drama in season one, a lot of good drama in season two. It's largely about their relationship and just kind of growing up and the characters maturing and things like that. So good stuff. It's very, very wholesome. The only possible criticism I've had, and I haven't read the manga, or I'm not sure if there's a light novel version of it, so I don't know if it was handled differently there. The last, I guess, 4 episodes or so are very rushed. Now, I don't know if that's because this is only a 24 episode series divided into two 12 episode seasons, which is pretty short given that the manga was like 12 volumes long. So I think that seems relatively short to me. But the ending is it's, I don't know if I'd call it rushed because it's not like nothing, everything gets resolved in a satisfactory fashion. It just feels like there was something they cut out to make it to the ending within the set number of episodes. There's a very, very strong tonal shift in the last couple episodes, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, it makes sense given the context of what happens in the show. I could see it being a bit jarring. We do have a very good happy ending, a very good, wholesome, happy ending, which I really enjoyed. That really shows that all the characters have fully matured, they've become much better people, and they've become productive and responsible adults and members of society, which is something I like. I like it when people grow up to be productive members of society and get married and have kids and get into stable relationships. I think it is important because media does matter a lot. And people's views of how the world works, rightly or wrongly, come from how things are portrayed in media. So I think it is good whenever a show does promote, um, I don't know, good values or good lifestyle choices or that kind of thing. Now, so that's my review of 3D Real Girl or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. There's a bunch of different things. That's the problem with a lot of animes is sometimes they like half translate it or they have different translations and they leave some of the like stuff in and take some of the stuff out. But overall, 10 out of 10. It's right up there with something like Welcome to the NHK. Actually, this reminds me a bit of Welcome to the NHK. It reminds me a bit of that. It reminds me a bit of Love Shinobu and Other Delusions, which I also have to review. But solid anime, 10 out of 10. Couldn't recommend it more.